Welcome, and I'm glad that you can join me today. Day85. And as you can see, I am standing at the crossroads. And today, in dedication to where we had mentioned before the previous affirmation, I thought it would be most appropriate to take some photos before submitting in to the YouTube for this video, the previous one, standing at the crossroads. And so today's lesson, however, fast forward a few days, perhaps 5 or so lessons later, my setbacks are these monetary shots of preparation upon me, taken to consider in the way of impact, created to restore and help me find another way. This is a lengthy affirmation, so it's good that you can close your eyes and repeat this after me, or just listen in like you would with a prayer. And this is how we're starting off from The Sovereign Light, a course in metaphysical spirituality, and my name is Reverend Maria. In continuation from pages 275 to 76, and I hope that you can join me in this short snippet. That's only 2 pages. So if you may, you can close your eyes and repeat this affirmation before we start. My setbacks are these monetary shots of preparation upon me, taken to consider in the way of impact, created to restore and help me find another way. My setbacks are these monetary shots of preparation upon me, taken to consider in the way of impact, created to restore and help me find another way. My setbacks are these monetary shots of preparation upon me, taken to consider in the way of impact, created to restore and help me find another way. There is an electric magnetic heart connection that transcends beyond the filters of the ego mind perspectives. And from these patterns, it must perceive its world. Only after the heart's response that shoots out in ripples, radiating out. can the ego formulate to refine its boundaries. Once again, and learns in this way too, and to once again be able to retard the self from its awareness. And thus we get the many variations of colors and angles that are with these veils, if you will, segregated into sections rather than combining. And when you get the red and the blue, you notice when we put those glasses on, we get a 3D film that looks like real. We can touch it in 3D. I don't know if you guys remember way back when we used to have one red and one blue glasses and we could watch a 3D movie. This is how we create our world, right? And the Maya matrix. And we define with boundaries and sections and, hierarchies, and the pyramid thus created. And every brick that keeps it held together. So to actually detect these portals psychically is the subtle connection or energy that passes through from one thing to another, and as cosmic web that can also hold in to prevent the pulling in the mind from reoccurring. So in a cyclical, and this that we vibrate out from the heart, and also the cyclical pattern and repeat of 360 that we find within the diameter of that circle in a linear time frame is our life and everything that goes around in a cyclical event of karmic cycles. Within every chakra, a spinning wheel is a portal. Within us is a portal, and many other portals that have these kind of magnetisms that can attract and repel. And so intuitively, let me see where I am at now. The self can create the influence of portals through its magnetism, through how it feels, and thought formations, electromagnetics, you see? It can be as simple as the coming together of a geometric triangulated platform, and from which a state can be created, and from it another reality to pull it into. Okay, so created from these thoughts, the compound of their words, and from which they do hold meaning. So these electromagnetic filaments can correspond to from relationships amongst the Earth and solar system, as well as further and deeper through the astral to galactic systems. As the Earth spins, the electromagnetic filaments move up and down, and by its very nature, the self too is connected. So I know I was referring to last time, someone being up there and someone being down here, but really this person might be up here, but in frequency, but in the density of it all, might feel poverty, whereas this other person might be very rich and everything else, but doesn't have that frequency and is in a lot of pain. Either way, it can be both. So this fear of being pulled down to not being able to accept that lower aspect to work through and deal with. Likewise, the same that connects that pain from one to another to relate and actually help each other in a rather covalent kind of way, or not at all. And this is how businesses are created. You know, I do something for you, you pay me in return, and or it doesn't have to be. Because that other person might say, hey, I can do this myself. I don't need this person. Look at this person where they are and what they're saying. Why should I take anything from them when they haven't gone through the system to have all these requirements so that I can trust them enough, and the credibility so that I can listen to them and actually, you know, take their advice. So there's so many things, but once a person goes through that kind of filtering, again, they're ego-driven. Again, they're oppressed. And they're helping others in the same way of that relating. So it's a vicious cycle, the healthcare system. And this is the way we get accepted and become credible. Otherwise, we cannot help those in need because they will not appreciate or value our services in this way. So that was something I wanted to add from previous, but in this way, these points are connected to nodes, and below as above perceived within the circle that produces solid form. From its element as compounds to the every equation is profoundly and naturally connected to all that is life. Magnetism. A lot of successful people might not even have an education. And those who do and are overly educated actually are in debt. So, you know, it's a catch-22. It's, you know what? It's a paradox. So if we're going to start putting each other down, then, you know, how is the world going to evolve? So we're going through a lot of crisis right now. The world is in so much pain and refusing to get any help, refusing to see, to accept any help. The right kind of help that is required for them. We all are in the same boat, actually. For most of us, we're convinced from the programs to keep ourselves separated and divided and go up against each other. Or like we can't afford. Or like, you know, be made fun of at school growing up because we can't afford the clothes that all the other kids get, and we get the hand-me-downs. And, you know, some of us are fortunate enough that we have mothers that are tailors and seamstresses and create new fashions. And as a result, create us to become fashion designers who, again, might not get accepted. So we turn and become something else or something else until we finally get, you know, some kind of grip of the reality that's going around us so that we can create an income. Because the world is dysfunctional. And we have to become functional. We have to find our functions. And most of the time, they're things that the program insists we are when we are not. And we are forced into these kind of painful realities that from an emotional level end up becoming physical into our physical bodies. Whether it be through accidents or just, you know, diseases, not being at ease. In any event, I'll continue on reading. And so, you know, this is how the healthcare system and the pharmaceuticals can exist, right? So magnetism is the connection that from all primal instinct has learned the way to become procreatively immortal. Procreatively immortal. Not getting together to create other things that a level of maturity would provide. Rather, we have a whole bunch of children getting together and procreating more children. never reaching to that level of partnering up as really even as equals, as whole individuals. It's like my better half. And whoops, got blown off here. So I'll continue reading. And eventually, after you reach a certain age, oh, now I'm retired. I can find another partner, or my partner will promote and support my dreams, or we have the same dreams together, and we can partner up and create corporations, create businesses together, rather than children. And to this day, it's like the banks, okay, you have to have over so many millions, 5 millions to be accepted as a corporate entity, rather than a small business who is a corporate entity. And the banks will not accept it otherwise, unless you have already generated over $5 million. And so these are the kind of investments that really towards the positive, not towards feeding the pharmaceuticals and the healthcare system. Oh, sick children's hospital, what charities are these? Are they really something in the negative or in the positive? And so these are the things that we will learn to discern. And eventually our world can change. And this way, we will not be in a lockdown situation. This was the greatest interruption that creative force had accepted, was this procreative assembly to take over and deceive us as being immortality, and to believe in the decrepited laws to procreate and lock in such expressions, and forevermore created hell on earth. Density. And so to be fooled into such a cycle, the self was at a loss from its dharma and created karma, because the more karma, it has to keep coming down to resolve until it learns. And because there was no more heaven left to share with the hell that falsified to make as believable in its own image, to exploit the innocence of heaven, and with the threat of death and time limits and restraints and deadlines. Yes. The diameter across the circumference. And heaven had accepted and split off away into the after physical life. Gravity, this law that may confine and block into the physical, is not to blame, but rather learn from its experience to master over in this way, and to transcend from such agreements that conform thee by. The self can open many portals to time travel, and eventually learn to master over time. Time, just like gravity, are tools to the self from its very own force, that it can connect to gratify it in this way of bliss. All these principles are but forces of the nature created from the oneness that is self. Anything that spins creates a vacuum, and from it an attraction. Such is one aspect of what is it not? The purpose of today is to get the self to step out of its sense of mind that it knows is commonality. And I will leave you with the affirmation prayer-like idea for the day. And with your eyes closed, Take a few breaths in. And out. And as follows, these words can be repeated. My setbacks are these monetary shots of preparation upon me taken to consider in the way of impact created to restore and help me find another way. As ionic bonding would, releasing one electron for another in an accidental. Is it really accidental though? Because it's a pull, it's an attraction to one another, and they collide, and one gains and one loses the electrons. Ionic bonding is not covalent bonding, it's not a shared. My setbacks are these monetary shots of preparation upon me taken to consider in the way of impact created to restore and help me find another way. My setbacks are these monetary shots of preparation upon me taken to consider in the way of impact created to restore and help me find another way. My setbacks are these monetary shots of preparation upon me taken to consider in the way of impact created to restore and help me find another way. My setbacks are these monetary shots of preparation upon me taken to consider in the way of impact created to restore and help me find another way. And as you open your eyes to yet another day, or as this day comes to an end for yet another lesson, take these words, this affirmation, prayer light, and sleep on it and see what you get. And then the next day, journal in this thought form that might have activated something within you. Or throughout your day, what has come to reveal itself from this? Thank you for joining me. And until next time, I hope I'll see you there. Day 86, lesson 75. Much love and light.